There's only 2 weeks left to go with this president, but what should investors be watching in terms of possible outcomes here between now and then?
Obviously, there's a lot of scuttlebutt and speculation about whether Congress or administration officials will step in and remove the president in the waning days of the administration. There's a lot of judgment calls that have to be made here, especially by administration officials. Does any move to remove the president make the situation worse, or does he represent such a threat to national security and to the peace and stability of the country that he's unfit to lead and has to be removed? That's not, as you and I can sit here, but when you're a principal sitting in that seat, it's much more difficult. You have to take into consideration the possible follow-up riots that could be worse. And with 2 weeks, is it worth that price and that risk? On the Hill, I'm skeptical. As you noted in your last segment, there's not a lot, and Kelly noted, there's not a lot of time left. Congress needs a little bit more time to act. It's one thing to have members of the opposition party weighing in. You really need senior Republicans to step in if this is going to be serious, because it has to go that quickly, and you can't do it quickly if Congress has any division whatsoever. It really has to be a fully unified congressional action.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're saying maybe don't expect any significant developments either way, although DeWardrick, it's not clear that markets would care. Do you think does that make sense to you, that we've kind of just looked past this as we look towards the reaction where markets are much more focused on some of the stronger signs coming from the economy, maybe fiscal stimulus coming down the pike again now?
I think, Kelly, most of the market is looking forward to a Biden administration. And as you pointed out, when you control the House, the Senate, and the White House, it means less gridlock in Washington, more predictability. We know now that who Biden nominates will likely be who he gets in his cabinet. And that level of predictability businesses like. I think they also are looking at the fact that we are going to see some form of stimulus, some greater coordination between the federal and the state and local governments, and perhaps some state and local government aid to deal with the pandemic. And I think that's all good news. There is an alternative side to this, though, which is, yes, please.
Go ahead. No, I want to hear the alternative.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to pay for this, right, Kelly? And so will there be some sort of a corporate tax rate adjustment to pay for all of this? I think when you look at that, so there's some pros and some cons, but I think the market is taking this in a very balanced way.
So is gridlock good or bad? You know, it was one thing when it was, hey, we've got basically a purple Washington and nothing's going to happen. And now it's, well, we've got a blue Washington and stuff's going to happen, but we don't care.
Well, I think it depends on what you're trying to see done. I think a lot of people would like to see something done on infrastructure. Those things have gotten gummed up when you have bills that sit in the Senate and can't get a hearing on the floor. Now, again, it doesn't mean the stuff is going to pass. It just means we will get a chance to see them come to the floor. They'll be debated, and if they pass, they'll be signed by the president. So I think infrastructure, the green economy, I think those things are things that are going to move in a Biden administration that have been somewhat stuck over the last 4 years.
Fair enough. And obviously, we've seen huge moves in some of these sectors like materials yesterday, some of those infrastructure plays. But Brian, we've also heard that, for the last 4 years and not much really changed. I'm curious what you think we mentioned this, but kind of going through the different sectors of the economy, we've seen financials up big and interest rate prospects looking better. Obviously, some niche areas like solar and cannabis jumping. What do you think investors should realistically be looking for opportunities in?
I think opportunities and risk, both risk and opportunities, investors should be looking to the regulatory world, less the legislative world. I do believe that there is gridlock because it goes beyond just the Senate flipping, but it's only flipping 50-50. The House is closely divided. Getting things through Congress is going to be enormously difficult. And so more of the action is going to be at the regulatory level. So I think there's some risks in the tech world and healthcare because of increased antitrust scrutiny. I don't think there's a sea change coming in banking regulation, although for larger bank M&A deals, we may see things slow down a little bit and as applications get more strict or closer scrutiny. So I think there's some regulatory risk, the energy sector too. I think kind of old energy, dirty energy is going to come under a closer microscope. So there's regulatory risk. I'm not as convinced on this reflation trade because somehow Congress is all of a sudden going to be able to pass a reflationary type of spending agenda.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.